Good evening and welcome to the Monday Agenda. As you're all aware, recently President Samia'S was in Europe visiting France as well as Belgium. And from that mission, we are highly privileged as the Monday Agenda today to speak with the French ambassador here in Tanzania, His Excellency Nabil Hajlawi. To basically touch base on the mission that Mama Samia had in France. Your Excellency, thank you so much for hosting us. Just so to start on a very light note, Your Excellency, we understand that prior to the commencement of so much, Mama Samia had attended a session on One Ocean Summit, which discussed on the blue economy. Would you expand further on that so that our viewers on the Monday Agenda could further understand what the objective of One Ocean Summit was and possible outcomes?
Yeah. Thank you. The One Ocean Summit is the first of its kind, it's first edition of this summit. We have held it in Brest, in the west of France. It was the President Emmanuel Macron that called to this summit with the United States and United Nations, sorry, and European Union, and the idea was to protect oceans and gather the major maritime nations in the world to protect the oceans and the resources that we have in common. And among these countries, we have invited Tanzania as a major maritime country, as a country that is focusing on blue economy. You have ministers of blue economy either in Zanzibar or in mainland. You want to deal with this question. You want to protect your resources in fishing or in mining, in tourism, in all these aspects. You want to protect them, and we are standing with you in this. And we have heard intervention of President Samia Hassan during the summit. It was very good learning from the experience of Tanzania and trying to use your ideas in the future, in the common future that we have in mind for the oceans in general.
Looking on to Tanzania as I wouldn't call it a very young nation. We are 60 plus years old now. But in terms of technology and investing in the blue economy, I believe there's so much that we need to learn and probably deploy to as far as the blue economy is concerned. And this is also the resounding mission for the president of Zanzibar. So what takes from the summit that we ought to look at as a country, as a united republic?
The country is willing to protect its resources, is willing to have a renewed perception of its blue economy and its shores, etc., and lakes also. And from the French side, international community, European Union and United Nations are ready to provide and share the instruments they have to protect these resources.
Okay.
These instruments can be either legal, United Nations agreements, European Union regulations, etc., or technology. This is what we have next doors here in Mayotte Island, La Union Island, which are very close to the Tanzanian coast. We have these instruments and we can share them. In sensing, in satellite information, all these things can be shared with Tanzania. And also in maritime surveillance and monitoring, we have patrol vessels that they can be around here, and Tanzania itself is aiming at having its own capacity in monitoring its coasts and its exclusive zone. So we are trying to share all this, to discuss on the ways to share them, and to unify our vision of the ocean, because the idea of the summit is that ocean is not property of one country.
Of course,
it's
yes.
a common thing. It's something that we have in common, and let's try together with our respective rules, with our respective technology and means to protect them. This is the idea. Let me first tell you that as French, we are really very proud of such a success and such a visit. It's the first visit of a female president to France coming from Tanzania in the history of the two countries. And it's a long-awaited visit from a leader of Tanzania, of a country with whom we share lots of values. Democracy, rule of law, but also women's empowerment, all these values that we have in France and also in the European Union, as France now is heading the European Union for these 6 months. We were really very proud to see Madam Samia'S responding positively to the invitation of Emmanuel Macron, his French counterpart. Second, the visit was a long visit, a 4 days visit with many events. We'll get in depth in the events later if you want, but it was first about economics and development.
Okay.
And let me tell you a few figures first. Some agreements were signed. There were 6 agreements signed between two sides. Our agency of development has signed 2 agreements worth 250 million euros. It's more than $300 million about transport, BRT project here in Dar es Salaam, and also about agriculture and banking. In addition to that, we have signed other agreement on economics in general, blue economy, and also a roadmap for development.
Okay.
Only this last one, the roadmap for development, is a total of around $1 billion projects for the coming years. So we are planning lots of areas of development and cooperation with Tanzania, not for a short period, for a long period, till 2025, and also with the significant amounts of money that we are trying to put on the table and to inject in the economy as partner our development. This comes after what we have seen recently coming from private groups, because Total Energy has formalized its decision few days before the arrival of Madam Samia'S to Paris, her decision of investing in the ECOP project, which is worth $4 billion.
Wow.
Just for Tanzania.
Okay.
$4 billion. So we are talking about very, very significant amounts of money. If you add all this, we have something about 6 or 7 billion dollars. It's significant and unprecedented in the
Certainly.
relationship
Yeah.
between the two countries. And it's a clear shift in the way we see Tanzania. Tanzania is not only a country for tourism, although we love your touristic sites and Zanzibar, your coast and your forests, that's true. It's not only for protection of animals and species, etc. That's also true, but it's not only for that. You are a partner. We want to work with you as a major partner in the region, and tomorrow prepare Tanzania as a regional hub, either in logistics or in commerce, and also in investing and creating.
That's absolutely. You've answered me very well, and I've gotten the clear context of the mission. But to as far as BRT is concerned, you've said it on your very last comment. But if I may ask, and please allow me, why agriculture? I know agriculture is probably the backbone of the economy of Tanzania. But for many years, I always have this question in mind that so much injection has gone into agriculture, but it's still not transformative enough as compared to other fast, rapid growing sectors. But why did the French government decide to inject resources in the agriculture?
employs about two-thirds of the population, and mostly women, and mostly in rural areas, of course, because agriculture is rather in rural areas, and it's linked to the climate change, and the way we will run the agriculture tomorrow is very linked to the way we will protect our environment, and we will fight and tackle the climate change challenges.
Okay.
So because of all these aspects, we have decided as French partners here in the country, and also as Europeans, to bet on this cooperation field, on agriculture and agroecology, which means that we want Tanzanians to develop their agriculture. We want to receive your very nice products in Europe, fruits, cashew nuts, flowers, all these things. But we want to tell you that there is now enough expertise and technology to do all this without harming your environment, without without committing the same mistakes that others have
done before in the past,
committed in the past.
Yes.
Using chemical, destroying the environment, and unfortunately we see this in elsewhere in South America, for example. People are destroying the forest in Amazon and exploiting it in not a very viable way and sustainable way. So this is an agreement that we have with Tanzanian authorities. You have a country in which around 40% of the surface is protected by your rules, and we want to develop this with you, with the expertise you have, and we also have in our universities. Technology we can bring the expertise. We are planning to have an expert, French expert, very soon here in Tanzania, developing these aspects about agroecology. So that's why one of the two big agreements that were signed in Paris was about agriculture and how to fund these small farmers through the TADB bank. This is one of the two agreements that were signed.
You've raised a very pertinent point, Your Excellency, and I'm delighted that you've mentioned. I'm vaguely thinking, and I'm happy that you will probably share your highlights on the same. The funds in agriculture, and allow me to press on agriculture because I'm passionate on this sector, and I really like to see transformation in agriculture, transforming a smallholder farmer or farmers in agriculture in Tanzania, but also the sector to actually increase its contribution to the GDP. But if the resources have been channeled through Tanzania Agricultural Development Bank, which is the rightful channel, and then you're looking onto the aspects of the practice, the access of the farmers to these funds. You're looking onto the aspects of organic agriculture, for instance, whereby we do not use a lot of chemicals in agriculture. And then I just wish to understand, is this the precondition to TADB that, as we give this, which will be my next question, loans or grants, we wish also for you to focus on ensuring that these resources are going into smallholder farmers and they're going to be able to access these funds without interest or so much interest, or we wouldn't wish to see you supporting chemical industries or chemical fertilizers so that they can cope with the vision that you have for Tanzania, for instance.
Let me tell you that the agency for development, the French agency for development, when it comes to a partner like TADB, for example, we do not come just with funding and we put the money and please use it and au revoir. No, this is not the way we hold our project and we prepare our projects. We have experts that come and long discussions with our partners, and we get in depth really in the way the project is being implemented after the grant of the funding. It means that we agree on the objectives and we share this goal to come to the small farmers and to develop women empowerment locally and local communities. This is a shared objective.
Okay.
And we get in depth in how to reach this objective. And we learn from our own experience, because we have experience in Europe also, to protect small farmers, to protect local determination of geographic origins, etc. So we share all this expertise. We come with our vision, and we try to implement it with our partners.
Excellent.
And you have very nice expertise here in your country, and people really are very committed to reach these common objectives. We are quite confident that we will reach these objectives with you through your bankers, your agro experts, and the idea at the end of the day is that the small farmer can develop his activity. The consumer, either here in Tanzania or abroad, can receive a good product, and we can work on the whole chain, from the banker to the farmer to the consumer. With you, this is what we are planning to do.
Oh, excellent. You've answered me very well, Your Excellency. Going back onto the value that the French government has been too kind to Tanzania. You said it's close to $7 billion. Just to understand, and I'm sure the viewers will be very keen in understanding, or rather getting it from you. Are these loans, grants?
Actually, when we talked earlier about the figures, we have added many different things. So the investment of Total alone is about $4 billion.
Correct.
So it's a private investment. It's not a loan. It's
an investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the authorities, Tanzania as a government, has a share in the project. So the project as a whole counts three partners, and one of the partners we found
is the government of Tanzania.
So this is one. Second, the roadmap of development that I mentioned earlier that was signed before President Samia in Brest, it's a bunch of projects, series of projects that the total of these projects is about $1 billion, and it's a mix of funding with very concessional interest, I mean, with no burden on the shoulders of Tanzanians, and grants, either financial or by bringing expertise from our side. And the last two agreements that were signed, I mentioned them earlier,
BRT and agriculture.
It is about mainly about loans, but again, loans that are not commercial. We do not target return. So it's really to develop projects and not to gain markets, which means, for example, unlike other partners, or like the Chinese, for example, it's forbidden for our agency of development to
accrue interest.
Not only interest, and to give the market to a French company. No, it's totally separate. They bring the investor or the industrial partner that is the most suitable for the country, whatever its nationality is. And let me tell you that many of the projects we fund here in Tanzania are not at all made by the French. The investor, the industrial partner, the builder of the project the can be Chinese, Turkish, Egyptian, whatever, African, Tanzanian. It's not at all linked to the grant or the loan that our agency is make.
Oh, okay, very clear, Your Excellency. Part of the mission that Excellency Samia'S Hassan had in France was also to do on the health, before we speak about the follow-up trade mission that are to come future days, would you rather like to expand so that our viewers can also get a picture of what was discussed in relation to health in between our two countries?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. The question of health was central in the meeting we've had in the LSE Palace in Paris. The President Macron raised this question in answer to President Samia, and the conclusion of these discussions were that we are committed to work with Tanzania in this field of health. And our view is that we have to bring more health care service to the population in Tanzania, even in the remote areas. This is what we try to do also in France, and with the highest quality possible. So we cannot have health for Tanzanians and another kind of health service for French and Europeans. This is not at all our philosophy. That's why we are trying to implement here in Tanzania a project of cooperation on cancer with the highest standards in the world, run by Aga Khan and their counterpart in France, which is Institute Curie, the oldest institute of cancer in the world, founded by Marie Curie herself, the founder of radioactivity. And now we are implementing projects already here. There were grants from AFD, 10 million euros a few years ago. Yesterday I have signed myself a grant here for an additional 2.3 million euros. So we are talking about a growing project, long-standing project, total of about 80 million euros on cancer. We are expanding it in other areas. We are talking about building new hospitals. We have mentioned during the visit of President Samia to Paris the hospitals of the capital, Dodoma, for example. We are having a reflection on that. And the last piece of this whole strategy on health here in Tanzania for France is to building capacity in manufacturing medicines and vaccines.
Excellent.
And this is a subject for the future. There is a clear request from the Tanzanian side on this, and the answer of President Macron was yes, we can work with you on yes. Two, we have to have a partner. We have to build a partnership. France cannot come, or foreign, an industry from France cannot come and set up factories and plants that way. We have to have a common project and partnership. That's why we are already exploring a partnership here locally, and we are quite optimistic about it.
Allow me to understand, Your Excellency, Aga Khan. I'm happy that it's in Tanzania and it's already taking shape. You signed it yesterday, but why Aga Khan? And I'm asking why Aga Khan because, to as far as cancer is concerned in Tanzania, you're either looking onto the cancer hospital, the Ocean Road Cancer Institute, or you're looking onto Muhimbili National Hospital. Aga Khan is more of a niche, more of an investor in Tanzania. So why, just to understand, and I'm sure my viewers would be equally curious, why not Muhimbili, why not the Ocean Road, which are specifically designated to cancer here in Tanzania?
The answer is that I mentioned Aga Khan just as it is the recent example that we've had in mind. That's all. But we've had projects with Muhimbili, with the Ministry of Health. We are we are preparing new projects with your government in Dodoma, as I mentioned earlier, not linked to Aga Khan at all. Last week there was a shipment of equipment for the authorities here, and it was directly linked to the Ministry of Health, not at all with Aga Khan. So you see, it's not this or that. It's this and that. And we are, of course, much bigger ambitions with the Ministry of Health, because you're right, Aga Khan it has its network, development network,
Mm-hmm.
which has good governance, etc.
Of
But of
course.
course, Tanzania is much bigger than that. We have a huge population that needs this health service next doors, not in Dar necessarily, or on Mwanza or in big cities. They have to have it close to them, and we are working on this. And the idea again is really to hold the Tanzanian as to Tanzanian patient. I mean, as we hold the French or European patient. You know, when you have an illness, you are equal, whatever your color is and your origin is.
What one or two words would you give to Tanzania to as far as creating that environment? The government is doing so well.
Improving the climate for the investors, that's key, because the investor has to come and bring his money, his expertise, and make risk also by coming, but he has to have a guarantee, a kind of legal security, to not see rules being changed every month, and not have a bureaucracy that can undermine his efforts and also ultimately his money. So these are things that all the investors in the world look for. Now we have partners that hear from the foreign investors, and they want to be the hub, the next hub of the region. They want to attract more and more foreign direct investment. So the attitude is already there. We have to work together to have the detail that can make difference. To have a plant of pharmaceutical, for example, here rather than in the neighboring country, that's a question that we have to deal with the authorities, to have the right expertise, the right legal framework, the guarantee for the investors, etc., etc. You are scoring points because the pipeline of ECOP, for example, it wasn't said that it was in northern Tanzania. It could be elsewhere.
Correct.
Yeah. So you are scoring good points. You are working. The attitude is there. Now let's move forward.
Absolutely.
On this path and have the Minister of Foreign Trade and Attractiveness, and we want to continue working on it. Although we are in France the first destination of foreign investment in Europe in general, one of the two first in the world. So, but still we have to attract for new fields.
Forthcoming trade missions in Tanzania. Maybe you want to use this opportunity to highlight some of these missions. Are they agricultural based? Are they mixed? Are they, so that Tanzania as a country and the business community watching the Monday agenda now can sort of like prepare mentally and see how to engage so that these missions are fruitful.
Absolutely, you're right. The visit of President Samia'S was a kind of trigger for a whole phase of visits and exploratory missions here in the coming weeks and months. We are already preparing it. We are scheduling this for the period from April, May to June, and probably even later. And we are going to have many different kind of businesses, companies, bigger ones and smaller, in agriculture, as you mentioned, but also in transport, ports, airports, etc. Of course, the traditional sectors like airplanes, helicopters, riders, all these people are coming again, and they are resuming their contact and businesses here. Within 2 weeks from now, on the 16th of March, we're going to have the launch of an operation on internet by satellite here in Tanzania by a French company. It will take place on the 16th of March, as I said. So you see that it's done because we've had this mission, this successful visit, and because there's a new trust, a new faith in the country. They come because they feel that they are welcomed here in the country, and they can create jobs, create projects, implement projects, and ultimately develop businesses here. And the schedule is full of events in the coming months and weeks. Probably will even have ministerial visits. We are trying to work on it. And the coming period in France is going to be an electoral period, so we're not sure to have, very soon a ministerial visit, but we are also working on it.
Back onto one of my earliest interview I had with you, and it's clogging in my head that you've been in Tanzania for the past 6 months now, and so much has transpired over the past 6 months. Do you want to look back and tell us in a nutshell how have been your 6 months?
In a nutshell, the 6 months were very, very short and dense. Actually.
Okay, yeah,
very
certainly.
Busy. Thank you first for the warmth of the way I was welcomed and had in this country. People are really very nice and warm. Thank you for all of you, for all the viewers. And these 6 months were with a big record of visits. This is the visit that we have ended last week was the visit of President of Tanzania, the first one for years and years now. And the visit we've had in last October for Minister Frank Riester here in Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam. It was the first also for French Minister for years and years. The agreements that we had having and the amounts we are talking about, the figures that we are raising are unprecedented, just unprecedented in the history of the two countries. And we are betting on more and more other areas of cooperation, security, intelligence, military cooperation, neighborhood. All these questions have to be explored in the coming weeks and months with new missions. And personally, I'm really proud of being part of this shared experience between our two countries. And we are already preparing the next visit, next big visit that should take place. That's what we hope, at least. President Macron, French president here in Tanzania.
Oh, wow.
What we are preparing.
Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, it's mesmerizing, but again, very well. Good luck to that as well. Looking onto Your Excellency, looking onto the history, bilateral, that we've had, or we currently have between our two great countries, how do you see going forward the relationship between France and Tanzania?
The trust that we have reached between the two countries, between the leaders in the two countries, President Samia'S and President Emmanuel Macron, this trust is totally unprecedented. As I said earlier, we have leaders in both countries that understand each other, that see the other partner as a reliable partner on which they can count and on which you can rely in building a common neighborhood in the region. That's why I mentioned earlier security and military cooperation. This is something that requires trust and confidence between the partners. And as we face common threats in the region, we in Mayotte and La Réunion, our neighbors, your neighbors, sorry, we have the southern fleet of the Indian Ocean, which is the French one, which is based in La Réunion, next doors from your coast and from Zanzibar. We rely on our partners to tackle the threats that we face and that you face also. All the smuggling issues, drug trafficking that's coming from elsewhere, security for your shores and our shores, and of course fighting illegal migrants and overall terrorism and jihadism. All the questions are dealt with between the two countries in kind of trust that is totally unprecedented and unheard of between us. And we have just to implement now the projects that we start to agree on and make it tangible and real for the population, because you have population that has almost the size that the French population is, about 60 million. Your youth are full of energy, is half of the population that are very young. The aspirations are the same, and I think that we can bring to each other a lot, and we are committed.
Looking onto the international arena, the conflicts between the Russia and Ukraine, and how France is positioned to, mediate so that, we don't get to undesired ends. Probably you want to slightly mention that so that, we expand the understanding of the issues and the French involvement in coming to long-lasting, durable solution to that.
Yeah, absolutely. France is heading the European Union for the first month of this year, and France is also the only country in the European Union that has the permanent seat in the Security Council in the UN, and also the only nuclear power in the European Union. So we have a specific role to play in peace and security in Europe and in the world. And of course, the Ukrainian problem is a matter of preoccupation for us. It is a major crisis next doors in Europe. It's not elsewhere.
Absolutely.
It's really very next doors. And President Emmanuel Macron was involved immediately in this crisis. And our strategy from the beginning was to talk to everyone, to not exclude Vladimir Putin or the Russian regime, to try to avoid any military, belligerent, and vindicative strategy. We are not in this kind of strategies. But in the meantime, our goal is to have an international order that is based on sovereignty and the respect of the rules and the international law. International law said that you cannot occupy the territory of your neighbor.
Of course.
You cannot cross the border without permission. These kind of elementary things. And what we are seeing now in Ukraine is that these rules are not respected. The elementary rules of international order are no longer respected by Russia, although we hold the Russians as a very big partner and historic partner for France. So we say this to our partners, and now we are moving to a phase in which we have to show that we cannot accept this.
Of course.
Annexing the territory of your neighbor is not allowed, and we can no longer accept it. That's why we are talking about sanctions, reinforcing sanctions, and in the meantime trying to continue discussions and negotiations. There should be in the coming days meetings, summits, etc. Things are being organized, probably in Paris between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin and Emmanuel Macron, probably also between the two ministers from France and Russia, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Yves Le Drian from France and Sergei Lavrov from the Russian side. So we are really not losing the thread of negotiation, but in the meantime, the commitment is very strong to not accept what is unacceptable, as I said earlier. And this is not a matter of Russia and Ukraine only.
Of course, it's
really
global.
A matter of international order.
Of course, yeah. Your Excellency, we've come literally to the end of the Monday agenda. I would, I'm gathering a lot from the discussion. I'm learning. I'm a young diplomat myself, so I'm exposing myself. I get exposure to so much happening in the world. The news will only give you a glimpse, but you have to sit with people like yourself to just get the in-depth. I believe anything that you want to say to the Tanzanian community, otherwise we've come to the end. But yeah.
My last word will be Asante Sana, of course,
all
of you. And a last word also to say that we are preparing lots of projects of cooperation, and this can be done only by partnership. So please come and see us. We have a Franco-Tanzanian Chamber of Commerce here. We have people that are involved in this cooperation. Come and see us. Don't hesitate. Even the young people, the young creators of startups, of small projects, we can hear you, we can work with you, and you can bring your contribution to the relation.
And that marks the end of the Monday agenda.